Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance and watched the stars through the main screen. His ship had been traveling for 3 months beyond any human colony. The year was 2387, and humanity had finally built ships fast enough to reach the far edges of space. Jake felt proud to lead this mission into unknown territory. The Defiance was not a big ship, but it carried the best crew Earth could send. Engineer Danny Rodriguez worked in the lower decks, keeping the engines running smooth. Captain Lisa Barnes served as Earth's top diplomat and knew 12 alien languages that humans had learned from old radio signals. The crew of 200. People all believed they might find friendly aliens out here. Jake was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started ringing. Lieutenant Kim Foster ran to her station and checked the sensors. Her face went white as she read the numbers. "Commander, we have incoming ships," Kim said with worry in her voice. 20 vessels approaching fast from the north sector. Jake put down his coffee and walked to the tactical display. The ships on screen looked nothing like human designs. They had long, curved hulls that seemed to be made of crystal and metal together. Energy readings showed these ships carried weapons, far beyond anything humans had built. "Try to contact them," Jake ordered. "Maybe they want to talk." Captain Barnes moved to the communications station and began sending signals in every language she knew. She tried mathematical patterns and even simple pictures that showed peaceful intentions. For 10 minutes, she sent messages but received no answer. The alien ships moved closer and formed a circle around the Defiance. Jake could see they were much larger than his ship. The biggest one looked like it could swallow the Defiance whole. Then a voice came through the speakers and filled the bridge with cold fear. "Primitive vessel, you are now property of the Zephyrian Empire," the voice said in perfect English. "Surrender immediately or face destruction. You have 60 seconds to comply." Captain Barnes quickly sent back a message explaining that humans came in peace and wanted to establish friendly relations. She told them about Earth and how humanity hoped to join the galactic community as equals. The response came as a beam of pure energy that struck an empty moon nearby. Jake and his crew watched in horror as the entire moon simply disappeared into dust and rocks. The alien voice spoke again, with no emotion at all. "That was a demonstration of imperial power," the voice continued. "Your species will serve the Empire or be eliminated. Prepare to be boarded and processed for slavery. Resistance will result in immediate execution." Jake felt anger building in his chest. Nobody had ever spoken to him or his people this way. He looked around the bridge and saw the same anger in every face. These aliens thought humans would just give up without a fight. "Commander, what are your orders?" Kim asked while her hands moved over the weapon controls. Jake knew the smart choice was to surrender. The alien ships clearly had better technology and more firepower. Any fight would probably end with everyone on the Defiance dead. But something deep inside Jake refused to accept slavery for his species. "All hands prepare for combat," Jake announced over the ship intercom. "This is not how humanity meets the galaxy." Danny Rodriguez's voice came from engineering with excitement. "Commander, I found something strange about their shields. Our sensors show a frequency gap we might be able to exploit." "Do it," Jake ordered without hesitation. The Defiance turned toward the nearest alien ship and fired everything it had. The missiles and energy beams struck the alien shields, and most bounced off harmlessly. But Danny had modified the last torpedo with a special frequency, and it punched through the barrier like it was made of paper. The alien ship rocked from the explosion, and Jake heard surprise in the enemy commander's voice for the first time. These Zephyrians had not expected any resistance from primitive humans. "All ships destroy the human vessel immediately," the alien leader shouted over the communications channel. 20 alien ships began firing at once, and the Defiance shook under the attack. Jake ordered emergency retreat, and the human ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, just as its shields failed completely. As the Defiance raced back toward human space, Jake knew everything had changed forever. Humanity had made first contact with a hostile alien empire that wanted to enslave every human alive. But they had also proven that human technology could hurt these aliens when used cleverly. Captain Barnes sent emergency messages to Earth warning about the Zephyrian threat. Danny worked on improving his frequency weapon design, while Kim calculated how many ships humanity would need to fight back. Jake Morrison had started a war between humanity and an empire that ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. He should have felt afraid, but instead he felt determined. Humans would never bow to these Zephyrian masters, no matter how powerful they claimed to be. President Maria Santos sat in the emergency meeting room deep under Washington, while Admiral Tony Blake showed her the latest intelligence reports. The news from Commander Morrison had reached Earth 3 days ago, and now everyone in the government was trying to figure out what to do next. The Zephyrian Empire has over 10 million ships spread across the galaxy, Admiral Blake explained while pointing at star charts. Our entire fleet has less than 800 vessels, and most of those are exploration ships not built for war. General Kate Murphy leaned forward and studied the numbers with concern. She had spent her whole career preparing for wars between human colonies, but never imagined fighting aliens with technology centuries ahead of Earth. "How long do we have before they attack?" President Santos asked. Commander Morrison intercepted their communications. Admiral Blake replied. "They gave us 30 days to surrender completely, or they will destroy every human world." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. 30 days to prepare for a war that humanity could not possibly win using conventional tactics. President Santos felt the weight of 6 billion human lives on her shoulders. Dr. Ryan Clark had been studying alien biology for 20 years, using radio signals and ancient artifacts found on distant worlds. He raised his hand and spoke carefully about an idea that seemed impossible. "Madam President, what if we are not fighting this war alone?" Dr. Clark suggested. "My research shows that dozens of species have been conquered by this empire over the past 3,000 years. Some of them might still have hidden resistance groups." General Murphy shook her head with doubt. "Even if that were true, why would they help us? We just discovered space travel while they have been fighting and losing for centuries." Ambassador Amy Harrison had served on first contact protocols for 15 years and understood alien psychology better than most humans. She saw possibilities that the military leaders had missed. General Murphy makes a good point, but she also proves why we might succeed where others failed, Amy explained. Every other species probably tried to negotiate or find diplomatic solutions. Humans are the first to immediately fight back and prove these Zephyrians can be hurt. President Santos authorized a desperate plan that went against every rule of safe space exploration. Dr. Clark and Ambassador Harrison would take the fastest ship available and try to contact alien resistance groups throughout the galaxy. Their mission was to build an alliance of every species that hated Zephyrian rule. Captain Steve Adams commanded the stealth ship UNS Whisper that normally ran secret missions between human colonies. His ship could avoid most sensors and travel faster than standard vessels. Adams accepted the dangerous mission without hesitation when he learned what was at stake. The Whisper jumped to the Keftar system, where intelligence suggested an industrial world might have underground resistance groups. Dr. Clark and Ambassador Harrison landed secretly on the planet's surface and began searching for signs of rebellion. They found Gorthal in the underground tunnels beneath the main factory complex. The Threxon rebel leader looked like a large insect with 4 arms and compound eyes that could see in complete darkness. His people had been slaves for 800 years but never stopped fighting. Humans think they can defeat the Empire. Gorthal clicked in his strange language that Dr. Clark barely understood. Many species have tried and all have failed. What makes you different? Ambassador Harrison showed Gorthal the recordings from Commander Morrison's battle. She explained how human engineer Danny Rodriguez had found a weakness in Zephyrian shields that nobody else had discovered. Gorthal watched the footage 3 times before speaking again. "Your people fight like us, but your minds work differently," Gorthal admitted. "You see solutions where we see only problems. This gives me hope for the first time in decades." The Threxian had advanced stealth technology that could hide entire fleets from Zephyrian sensors. They agreed to share this technology if humans would teach them new fighting methods and coordinate resistance activities. The next stop was the Sindari homeworld, where psychic beings had been forced to use their mental powers for Zephyrian communication networks. Commander Yethina could speak directly into human minds and instantly understood the scope of what Ambassador Harrison proposed. "Your species thinks in chaos patterns that make no sense to logical minds." Yethina projected her thoughts with amazement. "The Empire fears such thinking because it cannot be predicted or controlled. We will join your alliance." Captain Adams next flew the Whisper to 12 different systems where they found more alien resistance groups. The crystal-based Kortheni could regenerate their ships faster than enemies could damage them. The gas-form Velthari existed as pure energy beings who could pass through solid matter. The Mechanical Nexus Collective built robots that could think independently. Each species brought unique abilities, but they all shared the same story. The Zephyrian Empire had crushed their civilizations and scattered the survivors across slave worlds. They had been fighting hopeless resistance campaigns for centuries without making real progress. Dr. Clark made a discovery that changed everything when he studied the records of past rebellions. Every species had tried to fight using their own strengths while hiding their weaknesses. None had ever shared technology or coordinated attacks with other resistance groups. The Empire keeps everyone separated so they cannot combine their abilities, Dr. Clark explained to the growing alliance. Humans propose something different. We share everything freely and fight together as equals. Captain Adams suggested testing this approach with a joint attack on a Zephyrian supply depot in the border regions. He would coordinate human tactics with Threxian stealth technology and Sindari mental communication networks. The attack succeeded beyond everyone's expectations. Threxian ships delivered human-designed weapons while staying invisible to enemy sensors. Sindari mental links allowed perfect coordination between all attacking vessels. Human unpredictability kept the Zephyrians confused and unable to respond effectively. News of the victory spread through secret communication networks that connected resistance groups across the galaxy. Species that had hidden in fear for centuries began emerging with offers to join the alliance. The impossible was happening, and it all started with humans refusing to accept defeat. Emperor Vexthul had ruled the Zephyrian Empire for over 200 years and never faced a serious threat to his power. He stood 8 feet tall with scales that gleamed like black metal and eyes that burned with cold fire. The reports from his commanders about human resistance made him angrier than he had been in decades. "This primitive species dares to attack Imperial installations," Vexthul hissed while studying the tactical displays in his throne room. "They inspire other slaves to rebel against their rightful masters. This cancer must be cut out immediately." War Admiral Kethtar commanded the 3rd Battle Fleet with over 10,000 ships, but he had failed to stop the growing rebellion. The Emperor decided to personally lead the punitive expedition against Earth and show the galaxy what happened to species that defied Zephyrian rule. The Eternal Dominion was the largest ship ever built, with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been penetrated. Emperor Vexthul ordered the entire Imperial Guard fleet to accompany him on this mission. They would destroy Earth completely and broadcast the execution across the galaxy as a warning. Admiral Tony Blake received the intelligence reports about the approaching Imperial fleet and felt his stomach drop. 10,000 enemy ships were heading directly toward Earth, and they would arrive in less than 2 weeks. Even with the new alien allies, humanity had barely 1,000 vessels available for defense. We need to evacuate the colonies and bring every ship back to Earth, Admiral Blake told the Emergency Defense Council. This will be the largest space battle in human history. Captain Nick Peterson commanded the fortress ship UNS Indomitable that carried the heaviest weapons in the human fleet. His ship had been designed to defend Earth's orbital space, and now that purpose would be tested against overwhelming odds. Commander Grace Kelly led the fighter squadrons that had been equipped with Danny Rodriguez's frequency disruption weapons. Her pilots trained day and night to perfect attack patterns that might penetrate Zephyrian shields. They all knew most of them would not survive the coming battle. The defense of Earth began when the first Zephyrian scouts appeared at the edge of the solar system. Human patrol ships engaged them immediately to prevent intelligence gathering about Earth's defensive positions. These small battles gave Admiral Blake crucial information about enemy capabilities. Their shields are stronger than our previous encounters, Commander Morrison reported after his ship barely escaped a Zephyrian destroyer. But Danny's frequency weapons still work if we can get close enough. Dr. Andy Williams worked with alien scientists who had joined the Alliance to study captured Zephyrian technology. The crystal-based Corthani engineer Krelton helped him understand how enemy shields operated using harmonic frequencies that could be disrupted. Each ship class uses different shield harmonics, Dr. Williams explained to the Defense Council. But the Emperor's flagship has a unique frequency signature that we might be able to exploit. The main Zephyrian fleet arrived like a dark cloud that blocked out the stars around Earth. Emperor Vex-Thul immediately began orbital bombardment to demonstrate his power and terrify the human population. Cities on Earth's night side could see the explosions in space as human orbital platforms were destroyed. Admiral Blake ordered the defense fleet to engage using tactics developed with alien allies. Human ships worked in groups with Threxian stealth vessels and Sindari coordination ships. The battle spread across the entire solar system as both sides committed everything they had. Captain Peterson's fortress ship anchored the center of human battle lines and absorbed massive punishment from Zephyrian heavy cruisers. His crew fought for 3 days without rest while their ship slowly fell apart around them. But they kept fighting, and their example inspired other human vessels to stand firm. Commander Kelly led suicide attacks against Zephyrian command ships using fighters equipped with frequency weapons. Her pilots flew through walls of enemy fire to deliver their special torpedoes at point-blank range. Most of the fighters were destroyed, but they managed to take out several enemy capital ships. The turning point came when alien reinforcements began arriving from across the galaxy. Threxian stealth fleets emerged from nowhere and began attacking Zephyrian rear formations. Sindari ships coordinated perfect strikes using mental communication that enemies could not intercept. Corthani crystal ships regenerated damage faster than Zephyrians could inflict it. Emperor Vex-Thul realized his guaranteed victory was turning into a real battle. He had expected to crush human resistance in hours, but the fighting had lasted for days with no clear outcome. Worse, the primitive humans had somehow united dozens of slave species against him. Focus all fire on their command ships, Vex-Thul ordered his fleet commanders. Destroy their leadership and the Alliance will collapse. Pilot Sarah Mitchell volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history when Dr. Williams discovered the Emperor's flagship vulnerability. She would fly a single fighter loaded with a specialized frequency disruptor directly into the heart of the Eternal Dominion. The ship's core uses a unique harmonic pattern, Dr. Williams explained while preparing the weapon. If we can deliver this device to the right location, it might cause a cascade failure in their entire power grid. Sarah Mitchell launched her fighter during the height of battle while thousands of ships fought around Earth's orbit. She flew through the massive space battle, dodging energy beams and explosions that could vaporize her tiny craft. Alien ally. Ships provided cover, but she had to make the final approach alone. The Eternal Dominion's defenses concentrated on her fighter as Sarah dove toward the flagship's central hull. She took hit after hit but kept flying until she reached the target zone. With her ship falling apart around her, Sarah activated the frequency disruptor and watched it burn through the enemy armor. The explosion that followed lit up the entire solar system as the Emperor's flagship suffered catastrophic power failure. Internal explosions ripped through the Eternal Dominion until the mighty vessel broke apart and died. Emperor Vexthul perished with his ship and his dream of easy victory. The remaining Zephyrian fleet retreated in chaos without their supreme leader. They had never lost a major battle before and did not know how to respond to defeat. Earth had survived, and the rebellion now had momentum that would spread across the galaxy. The death of Emperor Vexthul sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian Empire that had never experienced defeat in 3,000 years of conquest. War Marshal Kethron immediately claimed control of the imperial military, while Administrator Velkus attempted to maintain civilian authority over the vast bureaucracy that ran the galaxy. The Emperor died because he underestimated primitive opponents, War Marshal Kethron declared to his senior commanders. I will not make the same mistake. We will crush this rebellion using total warfare and systematic extermination. Administrator. Velkus disagreed with such extreme measures and believed negotiation might end the rebellion without destroying valuable slave populations. The conflict between military and civilian leadership weakened imperial responses across hundreds of worlds as local commanders received contradictory orders. General Kate Murphy recognized this opportunity and developed the Wildfire Protocol with Admiral Tony Blake and the Alien Alliance leaders. They would launch simultaneous uprisings on 100 worlds, while the Empire was distracted by internal power struggles. Every rebellion will receive human advisors who can teach guerrilla tactics and adaptive thinking, General Murphy explained to the Joint Command Council. Our goal is to spread chaos faster than they can respond to it. Colonel Ben Turner led the first major liberation mission on the mining world Zerion 7th, where enslaved Moltar workers had been oppressed for 8 centuries. The Moltar looked like giant moles with powerful claws that could dig through solid rock. They had been forced to extract precious metals from deep underground tunnels. The humans teach us new ways to fight, said Moltar leader Gorth Ek, after Colonel Turner showed them tunnel warfare techniques. We know every passage under the surface, but never thought to use them for military purposes. The liberation of Zerion 7th began with coordinated attacks on every surface installation simultaneously. Moltar workers used their natural burrowing abilities combined with human demolition tactics to collapse the entire planetary control grid from below. Imperial forces found themselves trapped on the surface while explosions erupted underneath their positions. Colonel Turner coordinated the surface assault while Moltar fighters attacked from tunnels that appeared everywhere at once. The Imperial garrison surrendered after 3 days when they realized they were fighting an enemy that could strike from any direction, including straight up through the ground. Meanwhile, Commander Lisa Thompson worked with Sindari Psychic Networks to execute the largest communication disruption in galactic history. The Sindari could project their thoughts across vast distances instantly and coordinate attacks without using technology that enemies could intercept. We will strike 12 sectors simultaneously, Commander Thompson explained to Sindari leader Yeeth Aina. Every communication relay in those regions must be disabled at exactly the same moment. The coordinated psychic attack succeeded perfectly as Sindari minds reached across space to overload Zephyrian communication systems. Entire sectors of the Empire suddenly found themselves deaf and blind as relay stations exploded or simply stopped working. Imperial commanders could not coordinate responses or even call for reinforcements. Chief Engineer Carol Davis led the technology development team that worked with the Mechanical Nexus Collective to reverse engineer captured Zephyrian equipment. The Nexus robots could analyze alien technology faster than any biological intelligence and suggest improvements that original designers never considered. Human adaptive thinking can improve their designs in ways they never imagined, Carol explained while studying a captured Zephyrian power core. We see possibilities where they only see fixed limitations. The improved technology was shared freely among all Alliance members rather than being hoarded by humanity. This generous approach convinced more species to join the rebellion as they realized humans offered partnership instead of domination. Captain John Stewart commanded the first mixed-species capital ship called the UNS Liberation. His crew included humans, Threxon, Sindari, Korthani, and Moltar, working in perfect coordination despite their completely different biologies and cultures. "This ship proves what we can accomplish together," Captain Stewart announced during the Liberation's first combat mission. "Every species brings unique strengths that make us stronger than the sum of our parts." The Liberation became a symbol of successful cooperation that inspired resistance groups throughout the galaxy. Imperial propaganda had always claimed that different species could never work together without Zephyrian supervision. The mixed cruise ship proved this lie wrong every day. As more worlds joined the rebellion, the Empire's tax base and manufacturing capacity began collapsing. Zephyrian citizens who had lived comfortable lives supported by slave labor suddenly faced shortages and economic hardship. They began questioning 3 millennia of propaganda about their natural superiority and divine right to rule. "Why do we deserve to rule other species?" asked young Zephyrian scholar Vexmar in a secret meeting. "What makes us better than the humans or Sindari or any other intelligent beings?" Such questions had been forbidden for thousands of years but now spread through Zephyrian society as military defeats mounted. Some Zephyrians even began helping the rebellion by providing intelligence about Imperial military movements and supply convoys. The cascade effect accelerated as news of successful rebellions spread through secret networks maintained by freed slaves and sympathetic Zephyrians. Species that had been conquered centuries ago learned that resistance was possible and began emerging from hiding with weapons and ships they had kept secret. War Marshal Kethran found himself fighting wars on hundreds of fronts simultaneously while his own people questioned the foundations of their empire. Administrator Velkus watched the bureaucracy that had run the galaxy efficiently for millennia begin falling apart as communication networks failed and local officials stopped following orders. "The rebellion grows faster than we can suppress," Administrator Velkus reported during an emergency session of the Imperial Council. "Perhaps we should consider negotiating a peace settlement before we lose everything." War Marshal Kethran rejected any suggestion of compromise and began planning his most desperate gambit yet. Deep in the Imperial archives, he found references to an ancient weapon system that could destroy entire star systems. The Omega Protocol had been built by the original Zephyrian Empire, but never used because of its terrible power. General Murphy received intelligence reports about increased Imperial activity near the galactic core where radiation fields made exploration impossible. Her human intuition warned her that the enemy was preparing something far worse than conventional warfare. War Marshal Kethran stood in the deepest vault of the Imperial archives where records of the ancient Zephyrian Empire were stored in crystal matrices that had survived for thousands of years. The rebellion had spread to over half the galaxy, and conventional military responses were failing everywhere. He needed a weapon that could end this war with a single, decisive strike. The Omega Protocol was designed by our ancestors to sterilize entire star systems, the archive keeper explained, while accessing files that had been sealed since the Empire's founding. It was deemed too dangerous to use and hidden in the galactic core where radiation fields would prevent discovery. War Marshal Kethran studied the ancient blueprints with growing excitement. The weapon array could target 100 star systems simultaneously and destroy all life within them. He would eliminate every rebellious world at once and show the galaxy the price of defying Zephyrian rule. Major Rachel Davis had spent months infiltrating the Imperial archives on Zeftar Prime, using forged identity documents provided by sympathetic Zephyrian civilians. Her mission was to gather intelligence about enemy plans, and she had discovered something that terrified her more than any conventional weapon. "Admiral Blake, we have a crisis," Major Davis transmitted through encrypted channels. The Empire has an ancient superweapon hidden in the galactic core. They are preparing to activate it within days. Admiral Tony Blake convened an emergency meeting of the Alliance leadership when he received Major Davis's report. The galactic core was surrounded by radiation fields that killed any known life form and destroyed most technology. No ship had ever successfully traveled there and returned. Any conventional assault on this weapon would fail before we could reach it, Admiral Blake explained to the assembled leaders. The radiation alone would kill our crews long before they could engage the target. Dr. Ryan Clark had been studying the unique properties of each allied species and believed there might be a solution that seemed impossible. He proposed building a ship that could survive the journey by combining technologies from every member of the Alliance. The Corthini crystal hulls resist radiation better than any known material. Dr. Clark explained his plan. Threxon stealth. Fields might hide us from automated defenses. Sindari psychic navigation could guide us through spatial anomalies that would confuse normal sensors. Engineer Paul Roberts was assigned to oversee construction of the most advanced ship ever attempted. The UNS Defiant Hope would use Corthini crystal technology for hull protection, Threxon stealth systems for concealment, Sindari psychic networks for navigation, Velthari energy forms for power distribution, and human adaptability to coordinate all these different systems. This ship represents everything our alliance stands for, Paul Roberts announced to the construction teams. No single species could build it alone, but together we can create something that will save the galaxy. Commander Jake Morrison volunteered to command this suicide mission despite knowing that even success would probably mean death for everyone aboard. His crew included representatives from every allied species who understood the stakes and accepted the risks. Lieutenant Kim Foster served as human tactical officer, while Threxan stealth specialist Morgan handled concealment systems. Sindari, navigator Yithsal would guide them through the deadly radiation fields using psychic abilities that normal instruments could not match. Cortheni engineer Krelton maintained the crystal hull systems that were their only protection against lethal energy levels. Velthari energy. Being Sother existed as pure consciousness within the ship's power grid and could adapt to radiation frequencies that would destroy conventional technology. The Defiant Hope began its journey into the galactic core, while War Marshal Kethron was already at the Omega Array beginning activation sequences. The ancient weapon required precise timing to fire on 100 targets simultaneously, and he could not afford any delays. In 6 hours, the rebellion will end forever, War Marshal Kethron announced to his remaining loyal forces. Every world that has defied the Empire will burn and serve as an example for the next 3,000 years. The journey to the Galactic Core tested every system on the Defiant Hope as radiation levels climbed beyond anything previously recorded. The Corthini crystal hull glowed white-hot, but held together while Threxon's stealth fields flickered under the energy bombardment. Commander Morrison watched his crew work together with perfect coordination, despite belonging to species that had been enemies for centuries. Human adaptability helped them solve problems as they arose, while alien technologies provided capabilities that no human ship could match. Navigation is becoming impossible through normal sensors, Sindari navigator Yithsal reported while her psychic abilities guided them through space distortions. I can sense the weapon ahead, but also massive automated defense systems that have been dormant for millennia. The Omega Array appeared before them like a small artificial moon bristling, with weapons that could destroy planets. War Marshal Kethron's fleet was already there, and the weapon's charging sequence was nearly complete. Energy readings showed it would be ready to fire within an hour. The array is drawing power from the galactic core itself, Corthini engineer Kreltan observed while studying the massive installation. Its energy output could sterilize 1,000 worlds if properly focused. Lieutenant Foster analyzed the array's defensive systems and discovered something that gave her hope. The automated weapons had not been designed to fight enemies who could coordinate using multiple alien technologies simultaneously. Their defenses assume attackers will use single-species tactics, Foster explained to Commander Morrison. But we can attack using combinations they never planned for. The final battle began as the Defiant Hope emerged from the radiation storm to engage War Marshal Kethran's loyalist fleet. Threxan stealth fighters appeared from nowhere, while Sindari coordination allowed impossible maneuvers that confused enemy targeting systems. Kortheni ships regenerated damage faster than defenders could track their positions, while Velthari energy forms passed through solid matter to attack from inside enemy vessels. Human tactical thinking coordinated these diverse abilities into attacks that no single species could execute. The weapon will fire in 30 minutes, Ythsal warned, as her psychic senses detected the array reaching critical power levels. We must reach the core systems immediately or 100 worlds will die. Commander Morrison ordered maximum attack as the Defiant Hope raced toward the array's central structure. Behind them, the Alliance fleet fought desperately to clear a Kabi path while ahead lay the most dangerous weapon ever created. Success would require every species working together perfectly, or the galaxy would burn. The Defiant Hope broke through the defensive perimeter around the Omega Array as Alliance fighters swept the last Zephyrian defenders from their path. Commander Jake Morrison could see the massive weapon installation charging to full power with energy readings that made his instruments scream warnings. 20 minutes remained before 100 rebellious worlds would be sterilized completely. War Marshal Kethran watched from his command ship as the human vessel approached the array's core systems. He had not expected any enemy to survive the radiation fields of the galactic core, but these primitive humans continued to surprise him with their stubborn refusal to accept defeat. All remaining ships converge on the human vessel, Kethran ordered his scattered fleet. They must not reach the array's control center. Lieutenant Kim Foster coordinated the final assault using tactical knowledge gained from studying every allied species. Threxan stealth fighters materialized inside the array's defensive grid, while Sindari pilots executed maneuvers that seemed to defy physics through perfect mental coordination. Kortheni crystal ships absorbed massive damage from the arrays. Point defense systems and regenerated faster than enemies could track their positions. Velthari energy beings passed through solid barriers to attack power conduits from inside the installation itself. Their defenses cannot adapt to multi-species. Coordination fast enough, Foster reported, while analyzing enemy response patterns. The array was designed to fight conventional single-species fleets, not this kind of hybrid tactics. Engineer Paul Roberts led the boarding party that would plant charges in the array's core power system. His team included human demolition experts, working with Moltar tunneling specialists who could dig through the installation's armored interior. The power conduits follow redundant patterns similar to human engineering, Roberts observed while studying the array's internal structure. Whoever built this weapon thought like humans do about backup systems and fail-safes. Dr. Ryan Clark made a disturbing discovery in the array's central computer core when he accessed historical records that had been sealed for thousands of years. The original Zephyrian Empire had not been destroyed by external conquest, but had fallen to an internal revolution led by a species with remarkably human-like characteristics. The ancient Zephyrians were overthrown by beings who thought adaptively and questioned authority, Dr. Clark explained to Commander Morrison. The modern empire rose from the ashes and built this weapon specifically to prevent such chaotic thinking from threatening them again. The revelation explained why the array's systems seemed familiar to human engineers. The original designers had built their ultimate weapon using the same adaptive principles that made humanity dangerous to rigid imperial thinking. War Marshal Kethran personally led the final assault on the Defiant Hope as it docked with the array's central core. His remaining ships surrounded the human vessel while boarding parties attempted to stop the sabotage mission through direct combat. You have fought well for primitives, Kethran acknowledged when he confronted Commander Morrison in the array's control center. But your species can rule this galaxy if you help us eliminate the other rebellious races. Together, we could create a new empire with humans as our partners. Morrison looked at the alien warlord who offered humanity everything the Empire had, promised other species before enslaving them. The same choice faced every civilization that had ever challenged Zephyrian rule: join the oppressors or face extinction. We did not fight to replace one tyrant with another, Morrison replied, while his crew continued working to disable the weapon. We fought so everyone could be free, including your own people. Engineer Roberts discovered the array's critical weakness while studying its power distribution network with help from representatives of every allied species. The weapon had been designed to be unbreakable by any single species' thinking patterns, but human ability to synthesize different approaches revealed solutions invisible to more rigid minds. The array draws power through harmonic resonance patterns, Roberts explained to his mixed species team. If we can create interference using all our different technologies simultaneously, we might cause a cascade overload. Kortheni engineer, Kreltan provided crystal resonance frequencies, while Threxon specialist Morgan contributed stealth technology that could mask their sabotage efforts. Sindari navigator Yithsal coordinated the timing through psychic links that connected every team member instantly. The sabotage attempt began as War Marshal Kethran realized what the humans intended and ordered his forces to stop them at any cost. Combat raged through the array's corridors, while Alliance engineers worked desperately to overload the weapon before it could fire on 100 worlds. Power levels are approaching critical thresholds, Velthari Energy being Sothar reported, while monitoring the weapon's charging sequence. We have less than 5 minutes before the array reaches full operational capacity. Commander Morrison made the decision that would determine the fate of the galaxy when he activated the overload sequence using combined technologies from every allied species. The interference patterns created by their coordinated effort began, disrupting the array's harmonic resonance field. The weapon cannot handle inputs from multiple species' thinking patterns simultaneously, Dr. Clark observed, as the array's systems began fluctuating wildly. It was designed around the assumption that only one type of intelligence would ever challenge it. The cascade failure spread through the array's entire power grid as systems designed to be perfectly coordinated began fighting each other instead. Energy meant to destroy 100 worlds turned inward and began tearing the weapon apart from within. War Marshal Kethran watched in horror as 3,000 years of Zephyrian supremacy died with the exploding array. The energy pulse that destroyed the weapon also transmitted across the galaxy through the Empire's own communication networks and disabled every Zephyrian control system simultaneously. On worlds throughout the galaxy, enslaved populations found their orbital platforms offline, their administrative centers powerless, and their control grids completely dead. The 3,000-year empire collapsed in a single day as its technological superiority simply stopped working. Commander Morrison and his crew escaped the exploding array aboard the damaged Defiant Hope, while War Marshal Kethran perished with his dream of eternal dominance. The galaxy was free for the first time in millennia and now faced the challenge of building something better than any empire. 5 years later, Ambassador Jake Morrison addressed the First Galactic Council, where representatives from every species met as equals rather than masters and slaves. Humanity had chosen to help establish the Galactic Cooperation Treaty instead of seeking dominance over their former enemies. Captain Lisa Barnes commanded the Joint Species Exploration Vessel UNS, New Horizons, that led missions to discover and contact new civilizations. Every species they encountered was offered friendship and cooperation rather than conquest and slavery. The galaxy remembered the day humanity broke the Unbreakable empire, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the revolutionary concept that freedom belonged to everyone regardless of their species or origin.